Hey everybody, welcome back into Preaches Get Stitches. We're glad you're here. Glad you found us. Holly, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I noticed that we're dressed for Christmas. I'm in green and you're in red.
I didn't even realize you were in green until you just said that. I was actually going to wear a green hat, and then I'm like, that's too Christmas.
I wore my red earbuds so that my red could go with my green, but yes, we look like Christmas.
Yeah, so Christmas is next week, obviously. Well, by the time this airs, it'll be.
I was like, it's next week already?
Well, what's crazy is the kids are out of school in like 3 days. Our kids for Christmas. So Christmas falls as a weird time. So Christmas falls on a Monday. And so then it's like some of the schools go until this week, which is the 15th. And then, and then some of the schools go until next Friday, which is crazy. So then it's like the 23rd.
Right. And then you get.
Or 22nd.
But then they get then until probably like the 3rd or 4th or 5th off.
No, they go until the 9th. So if they go until like the 22nd, they get till the 9th. So our kids go back on the 3rd. And so Ava's not too happy about that.
Yeah, I would prefer the 9th, I think.
Yeah. So it's just, are you leaving early for Christmas or are you staying later? You know what I mean? So we actually had friends in McKinney and they're out the 22nd through the 9th. And so they're like, hey, we should get our kids together. They're our old neighbors across the street. And they're like, hey, we should get together after Christmas. And, after New Year's, and we're like, it's straight up, we're back to school. And they're like, oh, like we are off till the 9th. So I don't know what I prefer yet. So I haven't really had the other option, but this reminds me. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like as a parent, I would prefer them to go back on the 3rd, but as a child, I would prefer to go back on the 9th.
Yeah, I think so. Cause like the beginning of the break, you're like, hey, this is great. The kids are out of school. Like we're having fun, blah, blah, blah. But then by the time the first rolls around, you're like, oh my gosh, like get these kids back in school. Like that's
because by then the kids are like, I'm bored. What can we do? We've already played with our Christmas toys. Yeah.
The Christmas song, Mom and Dad can't wait for school to start again. I mean, anyways. So us red and green reminded me one time, I was taking, gifts of some cookies or cake or something over to some of our bigger clients up here in the Dallas area. And so Val went with me and I was trying to be Christmas. I was trying to be festive. So I put a green shirt on and then I have like a red, like sweater jacket thing. And exactly what your face did right there. Val's like, absolutely not. You will not wear that. I'm like, I'm trying to be Christmassy. She's like, you look like an idiot. Like go change. Like, fine.
You do not match.
So
red and green should only go together for like Christmas decorations, not on an outfit.
Yeah, it did not look good. So I wore my Christmas 49ers hat because it's got red on it. And then my shirt actually is my ugly sweater shirt. So in Texas, people have these ugly sweaters, parties. So like, hey, wear an ugly sweater. It's too freaking hot. Today it's December 12th today. And it's 65 degrees.
Right.
And so they're like, hey, get these ugly sweaters and wear them. I'm like, I'm not wearing a sweater. It's too hot for that.
Just sweating to death.
So I had the shirt made up. Me and Val had our shirts made up. And so mine says,
where my hose at?
Where my hose at?
You know what's wrong with that shirt though? You have an erroneous apostrophe. There shouldn't be H-O''S. Well,
then it just looks like Haas. So we decided it was better to have an apostrophe. So then Val has a green one actually, and it says ho. So mine was where my hose at, and hers says ho. So
there you go.
Anyways, wore that to our ugly sweater contest last year.
I hope you guys won.
I don't remember. No, it wasn't even last year. I think this was 2 years ago.
Ooh, speaking of, you just reminded me. I had my work Christmas party up in Utah last week and a weekend before.
Wear ugly sweaters?
No, because my sweater was here. Jerry stole my ugly sweater, so I forgot mine. But I had 4 people who wore it, and I told them all that they're going to get gift certificates. So I need to message them today because only 4 people wore it out of everybody that came. So I said, well, since we had 4, we'll have 4 winners. So I'll just send them each a $25 gift certificate or gift card I'll see where they want it to.
Is yours the one with Mike Tyson?
No, mine was the taco one, and it says, let's talk about Christmas, I think, or something. And it's got tacos and the Fiesta Santa.
Didn't you have one with Mike Tyson that said something? What did it say?
It said Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And then one said, meet me under the mistletoe. And it was, so both of those were my finals. I almost got those ones, but I didn't end up because my good friend Erin, she gives me shit because she says I'm making fun of somebody who has a speech impediment. So she doesn't normally laugh She does not laugh whenever I send her all of the Mike Tyson memes that you send me. She did laugh at one though, and she was like, I try not to laugh at that, but that one was funny, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah. So anytime I see a Mike Tyson meme, I send it to you because.
Yeah. But my favorite one was the Mike Tyson on the church sign. The church sign says, "Come, honor, and faith." That's all I'm going to say. And I think I sent that to you while you were sitting in church.
Yes, you did. Like, son of a.
But it was funny anyway.
Mhm.
So anyhow, moving on.
All right, let's jump into our poll results. So I did put the poll up, and
2 polls.
we have 2 polls. I put 2 polls up, and the first one was, how do you open? Oh man, of course they just went away. Okay, how do you open a sunflower seed shell when eating them? I didn't really know how else to, word that. Like, and
I don't know that there's any way. Like, there is no really other word, because you can't say crack them open with your teeth, because either way you're cracking them open with your teeth.
Right. Well, here's the answers. I use my fingers and teeth to open the shell. So like you take
Something
the sunflower,
right.
and then you open it up, and so that was one option. The other option was I only use my teeth to open the shell, and that one dominated. I only use my teeth to open the shell had 24 votes, 77% of the votes. Lots of people on there. And of course we talked about there's no right answer or wrong answer for this one. We're just curious. However, I use my fingers to open and teeth to open the shell. Dad was on there with that one.
Interesting. I've done both, but I'll say that I probably do that more than using my teeth to crack.
I love just the whole experience of.
I know. I watched you on Sunday watching the 49ers game. You had a whole mouthful. I could tell. You looked like you had a big old thing of dip.
Yeah, I mean, I could put them here, and then just one at a time, they make their way through. Also, Mr. Nault. He says Mr. Nault. I can't call him by his real name because he's Mr. Nault to me, but he said the same thing.
Every time I think of him, I think, what do you do with a drunken sailor? It wasn't singing about a drunken sailor. They were asking the guy, Ken Sailor, what do you do with a drunk? Did he sing that to you that way?
I think so, but he also sang Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Rat, How I Wonder Where You're At. I think he used to sing that. And then he would say my name, and he'd always say, Scott. And so then he always had the, by the way, Mr. Nault was our band instructor in middle school.
Shout out to you, Mr. Nault. He was
Mr. Nault.
Hillary's, Chad's, yours and mine.
Yep. And so he had the, remember back in the day, they, the rolling words that go across, I don't even know what to call them, the rolling marquee. And so he had one, and he would, he'd put everybody's name in. And so then it would be like, he'd put in like, this dude, one word at a time, like one letter at a time. It wasn't tied to a computer. It was nothing. He's putting in, and he would put in like first chair, second chair, third, whatever. And he'd get to my name, and it's Scott. And then it just flash T's. They just keep rolling the T's. That was that. And the other thing I remember about Mr. Nault was at Christmas time, he wore a button that had an L with like the Ghostbuster logo thing. The
Noel.
Yep.
I loved him. He was by far one of my favorite teachers in middle school.
Yep. Well, Mr. Nault and Mr. Evans. I liked Mr. Evans as well. Do you have Mr. Evans? He taught
7th grade Texas history.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I had Mr. Evans. I liked him. I also loved Miss Frisch and Mr. Berg. Those were all my favorite.
I didn't have them till 9th grade. They moved to the 9th grade center.
Yeah. I had Mr. Berg in 6th grade for history. Then he moved to 8th grade, and I had Miss Frisch and Mr. Berg in 8th grade.
I still have my report I wrote over here for you to read
paper
one day.
Over there. I think I started to read it. I just never finished.
It's that boring, huh? I only got a 94 on it.
Sucker.
And then we were supposed to read books, but I never read books. And I think Miss Frisch knew that. I never read the books. And I would.
Man, if only we had ChatGPT back then, huh?
I know.
Heck, if we would have had Google at that point. Yeah, it's like we didn't even have, if we only had internet at that point. Ooh, all right. What was our other poll?
We did have internet in 9th grade. It was
no. Oh, maybe in your 9th grade.
Yes,
I had it my 11th. Yeah. So I had it 11th, 12th grade because I used to go to Reagan's house because Reagan's parents had a second line dedicated just for the internet.
Oh man. We used to use Ask Jeeves. AskJeeves.com. Put that on the poll. Did you ever use Ask Jeeves?
I feel like everybody asked Jeeves.
Well, we had to at our age, but there's kids that don't even like my kids. I'm like, Ask Jeeves. They're like, what? Like, I was like, just so you guys know, I was in school before Google, like when Google was only a number, like, oh, I got like a Google of them. Right. It was just a number.
And it was spelled Googol.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
That's how you spell Google, Googol. But I was telling somebody that the other day, like we had to go to the library and literally get the book off the shelf and find it, flip through the pages, like you were trying to find something. Mm-hmm. So writing a paper was much more intensive back then.
I remember you have like 7 or 8 books because you're like, okay, I need every book on World War II. And so you go to the library and you pull them all, like every book about World War II, and you're just like skimming the pages, like what's something
trying to find something that you would put. Yep, 100%.
What could I put in there?
Though? Oh,
I was gonna say, what could I put in there that the teacher won't know I plagiarized it?
Well, and can you imagine though, if Jeeves would have blown up, then people would be say Jeeves it, like would they say Jeeves, Jeeve it, instead of Google that?
Hey,
it would be Jeeve that.
Yeah, but Google blew up.
Dang, I wonder whatever happened to Jeeves.
It's ask.com, I think. It's now Ask.
Oh, you're right. It is ask.com.
Yeah.
Ask Jeeves. What else?
Jeeves, he was like a little butler. He was like the
butler. Yeah, he was the butler Jeeves. There to ask, do whatever you wanted. They had Jeeves. They had.
I mean, Yahoo was a big thing. Like when Yahoo came out,
big.
Yahoo, I think, could have bought Google for $1 million and they turned it down.
Same with like Netflix and Blockbuster. Blockbuster could have bought Netflix. But I was talking to, I must have been talking to Jerry. And I was telling him about the landlord that for the Hawaii house. I said, yeah, she still has an AOL email. And he's like, what's that? So I was like, what? I was like, AOL is like the original. Your emails were either at AOL or at MSN.
Nope, you forgot one.
Which was?
Juno.
Oh, Juno.
And Heidi's listening. I know Heidi's listening. She says she loves the show, listens all the time. Heidi had a Juno email account until I think she started working for me like 7 years ago, 6 years ago.
Listen, I had my AOL account forever and I went in because I kept it because I still had like.
What was your first AOL account?
Texas Aggie 80. No, that wasn't my first one. I don't know what my first one was. I can't remember.
I don't remember AOL, but my first like email address was after one of my favorite wrestlers at the time.
Oh no. Sting.
No. This is Scott Steiner. So he was like, he was massive. And then he was like Big Papa Pump was his name. But another name he had was Superstar Scotty. And so that was my email. Oh,
I remember that.
_star_Scotty at yahoo.com.
I don't know what my first one was. Oh, yes, I do. It was Holly Hawks. Because mom's middle name was maiden name, HAWKES. So mine was Holly Hawks. Holly _Hawks.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it was
with some numbers after probably.
I think it was like, honestly, I think it was Scotty P227 or something like that.
Yeah.
Something crazy, just some random numbers. So.
But I had Texas Aggie 80 at AOL for years and years and years. And then I went in to go sign in one time because I was like, there was something in there. Aaron and I were talking about something. And I was like, you know what? I emailed you, blah, blah, blah. So I go in to get it and they had deleted it. But here's the funny thing. Aaron still has an AOL account.
Oh my gosh, Aaron.
It's her original email.
Wow. My question is not because I don't have AOL, nor do I open AOL ever. When you open it up, does it say you've got mail?
You've got mail. I think it did when I opened mine. So I'm pretty sure it does. So
do you remember in school, like when we used the computers, like at the computer lab, and we had to use Netscape?
Yes.
Remember Netscape?
Yep, I do remember Netscape.
I don't even think that's a thing anymore.
I don't think so either. But that was back in the day too, when you had like Napster, and Napster is a thing now, but it's not the same that it was. Napster and LimeWire.
Are they still a thing? FrostWire, is that one now? FrostWire used to be.
I don't know. I know that Napster came out as some sort of thing, kind of like maybe like a Spotify at one point, but it didn't really catch on. But kids just don't understand Napster. Like spending hours trying to download
and then you download song. It and it's not even what you wanted. It's like,
or you would download stuff and all of those files would have like viruses and everything else. And then dad's like, why is the computer running slow?
I never used Napster. I did use LimeWire a couple times, Napster. But it was so garbage. Like it's like kids don't even know, like there's a meme that's going around. It's like kids these days will never know. And it shows like the download screen and it's like 39 years. It will be 39 years before this thing is downloaded.
Right. And then the worst part was like you're downloading it and it's like 1 minute left and somebody picks up the phone and cuts that internet connection.
Yes. Like, nobody get on the phone. I'm on the internet.
Right. It would have to start over and it would take 30 to 45 minutes for one song.
Like even like a picture, like you download a picture.
Yes.
And it's like
you could see it like pixel at a time popping up. Those were the days, man. Kids just don't get it.
That's good stuff.
But it's like the meme that goes around that says like, it talks about how, I'm trying to think what it's about, but it basically says like, and remember when your math teacher used to say, you're never going to walk around with a calculator in your pocket. I mean, and my teacher did say that. You got to know how to do this because you're never going to be walking around with a calculator in your pocket.
Yeah, you need to know the Pythagorean theorem because you'll never. That's the only thing I remember. And it's Mr. Merrill. Today we're learning about the Pythagorean theorem.
Mr. Merrill had the stinkiest breath.
And Mr. Merrill though drove a Z71 truck, Chevy. Oh my gosh, I love that truck. I'd be like, oh, that's Mr. Merrill Z71.
I have two stories about Mr. Merrill. One, he had stinky breath, and one time he was leaning over.
You told us this one.
I told this on the podcast.
Yeah, but tell it again. Make us laugh.
It makes me laugh every time. I just think about he's trying. So Lauren Ray would sit in front of me, and we went to school all the way through. And so Lauren sits in front of me, and we can't figure out this math problem. So he comes over to help me with this math problem. So first of all, he's leaning down on the desk talking to you, so his breath stinks. So you're already like, oh my gosh,
coffee breath.
Bad coffee breath because he drank coffee all day. And as he's doing it, saying something, he breathes out of his nose and a booger shoots out of his nose and lands on the paper. And Lauren just loses her mind. Look, gross! Was that a booger? And he just like flicks it off the page and keeps going. It was so gross. And it was a giant. All I think about when I think about that booger flying out of his nose, that it was like when Chad threw up and the pea shot out. That's how big that's how big that booger was. It was like a half a pea landing on my paper.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think he told us on the podcast. I think he told that to when we were looking through my yearbook from 1996.
Oh, yeah. I just remember that. And then I had Miss Finnan. Did you ever have Miss Finnan?
I had Miss Finnan. I did not because she taught maybe I had her for English. What did she teach?
Taught English and Spanish. No.
She taught something else.
Math and Spanish, maybe.
And her, I don't remember if I
She either taught English or math, but she taught Spanish. I had her for Spanish, and poor girl.
Because I want to say she taught 8th grade.
Yep, she did.
But I don't think I had her for English in 8th grade. Maybe
she taught Spanish. She had Spanish.
I didn't have Spanish. I didn't take Spanish.
Oh, I took Spanish. And I remember in 8th grade, you had to choose a name that you wanted to go by, like a Hispanic name. So I wanted to be Rosarita Pilar. She would not let me because she's like, that's not a real name. And I wore that lady down to finally I was Rosarita Pilar. And I'm like, I feel bad for my teachers because I was like relentless and probably I talked a lot and I was probably not well behaved. And I mean, there was a few times ADD, not on medication. There was a few times she kicked me out of her class. Her and Miss Duggar, I would have to go sit on the floor outside of the classroom. And every day I'd walk into Miss Duggar's class in 6th grade in math. And she would, when you were talking too much or not paying attention, she would write your name on the board. And if you got one check, it was like, this is your final warning. You got another check. You had to go sit outside of her door, on the ground outside. Oh, I was out there at least 3 times a week. And one time I remember walking in and my name was on the board already with 2 checks. And I was like, I haven't even done anything. And she's like, I know you're going to do it. So just go sit outside.
Wow.
She hated me. Oh.
Miss Duggar loved me. I was a good kid though.
Oh, she hated me.
See, by the time I went to school, it was like, because I had all the same teachers, we all graduated from Ellison High School. We all went, a lot of us went to Nolan Middle School.
Clifton Park.
And so by the time I got to high school, it was like, are you related to so-and-so? And I do the same thing today. They're like, are you related to so-and-so? I'm like, it depends. I mean, is it good or is it bad?
That's what I was going to say. You always knew by the sibling how that teacher was going to be. So it was like, are you related to Todd or Brett? You knew it wasn't going to go well. And you say, dang it.
They're like, are you related to Heather? And you're like, absolutely.
Yes, for sure. Sarah Sue Smith. Did you have her?
Miss Smith. Yep.
Miss Smith.
I actually dropped her class. That's when I dropped out of humanities, was 10th grade, because I was like, why am I doing this AP garbage?
Yeah, I did the same.
They wouldn't let me out of it. They're like, you can't get out unless your mom comes in and signs. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So of course mom came.
Same. I think I dropped out. I did 9th and 10th grade, dropped out 11th. But Sarah Sue Smith, I remember she would always say that she had Todd, but she actually liked Todd. But she was like, there was a question and it was like, name the 3 parts of the Constitution. And she says, she's standing up at the class and she says, it was a test question. She goes, and by the way, the answer isn't the beginning, the middle, and the end, like a Mr. Todd Pritchard wrote on his exam. I'm like, geez, Todd was like 10 years older than I was, or 8 years older, but she still remembered. And she would say, oh, Todd one time said this and Todd this, but because Todd was a class clown, so everybody liked him, but it was always a gamble on if they either liked him or they thought he was a smart ass. So it was always a gamble with Todd and Brett. Like,
yeah, Brett was always the one that always gave the most trouble, I think, because Todd was just a class clown.
Right.
And then, so I was going to say Spanish. I got a name too. We didn't pick our name. We were named by the teacher. And
are you sure it wasn't Miss Finnan?
I'm sure it was Miss Elwell.
Oh, Miss Elwell. She's probably still teaching.
And I walked in and Mike Edwards walked in and me and Mike had the same class period. She walks in. Apparently Jaime was her favorite, probably like her, who she thought was like the cutest little boy. Because me and, not saying I was cute or anything like that, but me and Mike walked in and she's like, oh, you're both Jaimito. Oh, she called us Jaimito. And she goes, I don't know who to name Jaimito. I don't know if you can hear me because my voice is super high.
Right.
Anyways, Mike ended up transferring to a different class. And so then she got Jaime. She got Jaimito in both classes. So I was Jaimito. And then Spanish 2 was totally different. I had some weird teachers.
I can't remember the name of my Spanish 2 teacher. It was a guy, older guy. Can't think of his name.
I totally cheated on the test one time. So I had to do this test. And this teacher, I don't know how she bright you. I don't know. As a kid, you never think any of your teachers are bright. Anyways, I put all the answers on my hand. Well, it ends up I had missed the test. And so she gives me the makeup. Well, she's one-on-one. And I'm like, son of a gun. Oh, and no. I have the answers. And so I just kind of like had it and I just would look down like, oh, I don't know. And then I get the test back because we picked up our scores from, our graded work from the box and it was a 0. And she says, next time you cheat, like don't make it so obvious or something like that.
Hilarious.
So then I waited a couple days and I went in, I'm like, hey, why do I have a 0? And she's like, I don't know. Did you do the makeup test? I'm like, no. And so she let me do the makeup test again. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. She was probably smart, but anyways, it was some young lady. But what about, did you have Miss Wahid? Is that not the weirdest name you've ever heard?
That is a weird name, but I did not have her. I had Miss Ratsky. Did you ever have Miss Ratsky?
Oh, Miss Ratsky. I did not.
8th grade science.
No, I had Mr. Kavanaugh, but Miss Wahid was one where she had, I think Heidi will comment because I think she had Heidi and Brett and Todd and Heather.
What did she teach?
She taught humanities, English.
Oh, yeah.
I think at the time for me it was 9th grade because we had the 9th grade center. So a lot of the teachers from LSU moved to the 9th grade center. All the 9th grade teachers moved to the 9th grade center.
Right.
So I had Miss Wahid and that's the class I probably fell asleep in probably the most because it was English and history. So when we went to school, we had 4 classes.
Right.
Every day, the same 4 classes for a semester. Like at least our kids today, they have the block scheduling like we had, but our block scheduling was 4 classes for an hour and a half each class.
I didn't mind that though, because you got 8 credits per semester. So when they switched that, switched after my 8th grade or 9th grade year, because before that you could only get 6 credits a semester because you did the 6 classes every day. Then they switched to the block where they did 4 and 4. Well, because of that, the people who were in my class could finish a year early. That's why I graduated a year early, because I had all the credits because they upped it, but they didn't update the rules, or they updated the rules for anybody starting the year after me had to have X amount. Well, my year was the last one that could have less, but because we got more, I think a lot of people could have graduated.
I could have graduated early, but I didn't. I didn't go that route.
Right.
We've discussed that. But anyway, so that block scheduling, so we had humanities, so we had English and history in the same class.
You didn't like that in 9th grade with Mr. Berg and Miss Frisch? I loved it.
That was fine. And maybe it was 11th grade when I got out of humanities. I was going to say 10th grade, I think, was Wahid and this other, this history teacher. And no joke, he had a spiral notebook and he would pace the class back and forth and he would just read.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
In 1879, blah, blah, blah. In 18.
I'm trying to remember who I had in, I don't even know who I had in 10th grade for.
So I had Mr. Berg, Miss Frisch in 9th grade. And then 10th grade, I had Wahid and this dude. And then 11th grade, I had Smith. And that's when I.
Okay, so this just brought up a class that I had. This is the kind of student I was. 10th grade. There is whatever my honors teacher, honors English was in 10th grade. Because 11th grade is when they were like 11th grade honors English. It had to have been 11th because that was Wahid. Because I got out because they were saying her
Not
class
Wahid,
was
Smith.
like
For you, it was Smith.
for English.
But you say you didn't have Miss Wahid.
Right. I got out because everybody was saying Miss Wahid was the hardest.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Hardest grader. You had to do a lot of work. And I'm like, no way, I'm out. So 10th grade, Miss Garner was like my 10th grade English teacher. And I had Reagan, all the same kids who were in my class from however many years, because we were in the honors classes together. There was an event. This is terrible. There was an event that was scheduled. Back then, it was taboo to call somebody who was black. Back then, it was like the African American. So there was an African American forum that was going to happen, and it was only for African American students. And the thing was, like, if your parents said you could go, you didn't have to go to class. So Autumn Cavanis, go ahead.
Was it like the college coming?
I can't even remember what it was. Because Reagan this was always one of Reagan's favorite stories she would tell about me.
Okay, so I have a story once you're done.
Okay, so I tell her I want to go. And she says, well, you can't go. And I was like, well, how do you know my great grandmother's not, or how do you know my or whatever it was, like, isn't black? And she kept going on. And I wrote a note from mom or dad and had them sign it. It must have been dad.
He probably didn't even read it.
He probably didn't even read it. I probably just said, sign this I need you to sign this for class. But it basically said that I had a black grandmother and I wanted to go to this thing. And she signed it. I mean, dad signed it. I took it. I know dad didn't read it because he never read anything. It was like a permission slip form or whatever. And I had written on the note that,
wow,
this was the case. She said, and Reagan was like, I can't believe you convinced her. And then I just skipped that day because it was considered like if you were going that day, whatever it was, you were gone. And then that was the class they watched Schindler's List. I was like, I don't want to watch that. Like, so you had to sign a permission slip because it was rated R.
Yeah.
And
Mom's not going to let you watch it?
Nope. I could not get that permission slip signed. And Miss Garner did not believe that I was not allowed to watch rated R movies. And mom wrote a note that was like, my daughter does not watch rated R movies. She does not have permission to watch this. And I had to go leave the class for that week because it was over the course, I think, of like 3 days or something. And she had to give me an alternate test. She couldn't test me out of the stuff in Schindler's List.
Wow.
So there you go.
So as a senior, I would hit up anytime a college would come, and they would come as a college and they'd be like, such and such college is coming and we're going to, but if you went, you got out of class. And so I'd go to all of them, like Texas A&M shows up, Baylor shows up, da, 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 da. Well, anytime one of them was showing up, I went. So I show up, and this one's Prairie View A&M.
Yep, I don't know if it's a historically black. Is it labeled as a HB?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I show up, and it's all girls, and they're all black, and then me. And the lady's like, and so I'm like, wow, this is awkward. Like, I'm the only dude. Number one, I'm the only white guy, And she's like, well, you could come and get a scholarship for minority white. And I'm like, oh, there you go. But I just went to get out of class. It was the only reason why I went. But so I was definitely out of place at that one for Prairie View A&M. I didn't know anything. I'm like, hey, this college is coming. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll go.
Sure,
I'm going. Listen to their spiel, right? But it was good old Ellison High School. So,
well, I have to bring up one more. Heidi texted me the other day and she says, did you ever have Mr. Ingram?
Oh yeah, I had Mr.
I didn't have him,
physics.
But I don't think I had him. No, because I didn't take physics. Come on now. I hated science. My last science class, I think, was like.
I liked physics. I did not like math though, but I liked physics.
She said, he's still teaching. He's 94 years old. 94. Joe has him. Our nephew Joe had him or has him. 94. I'm like, I can't believe he's still teaching. Now, some of the teachers, like, for example, like Mr. Berg, when I had him, he was like late 20s, early 30s. So it's understandable that I think he's retiring, but that makes sense. But Mr. Ingram, I didn't have him, but I knew who he was. And he was old when I was there.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I love about Mr. Ingram, he said, you can get a 3x5 card to use for your test. And anything you can write on a 3x5 card.
Oh, that was...
you can use. And so the most genius thing, little life hack, if you ever have that, you write one in blue and you write run in red.
What? And who taught you that trick?
I don't know. Did you teach it to me? You just put the color, put the
it.
blue over the thing, and you
Not
can see all the red, and then you get the red over it and you see only the blue.
Not only that, if you can type it. So I had two different ways, because there was one teacher who was like, it has to be handwritten. So that's when you would use the red pen and the blue pen and use the colored, I don't know, what was that, a ruler? Like the colored blue ruler?
Yeah, the rulers, or you can get the glasses. Or
whatever it was. So that when you had to write it, then you would use the blue and the red, because then you could just write over it and see it, like you said. But Mr. Berg, one year, allowed us, it was a very tiny, he called it a crib sheet, like this big. And he didn't specify anything about it. So I typed mine.
On the typewriter?
This is when you could only word process. That's the only thing you could do on a computer. And it was Microsoft Works instead of Word. And I typed it in like 3. So first I typed it all normal. Then I shrunk it all down to size 3 and brought a magnifying glass.
Yeah, there you go.
And he was so mad because I did it and told like Terry and Reagan. Yeah, all of my friends. So we all did it. And he was like, pissed, because he was like, when you have that opportunity, you're supposed to write it. He's like, but I guess that's my fault for having a bunch of smart kids in the class who I didn't specify. So after that, it was always like, if he allowed that, it had to be handwritten, blah, blah. But that's probably where I got the red and the blue thing too, where you'd write over and bring in the red and the blue glass and cover it. But I just remember having that, and you would type it in size 3. So when you're pulling it up on the computer, you can't even read it.
Yep.
But when you get your little magnifying glass, you sure can. I think I must have taken grandma's magnifying glass.
Probably.
I just remember he was so mad.
So the other thing about Mr. Ingram that I remember is he said, hey, we're going to build toothpick bridges. And so build a bridge out of toothpicks, and then we're going to put weights on it, and we'll see which one, is the strongest. So I build this bridge based on that. He's going to take like a 45-pound weight and put it on top and see how many they can stack up. Right.
And you could use like glue, or were there other specifications?
Glue. It was just basically glue and toothpicks. And so I start building up my bridge, and I have it like McCourt lived with us.
Okay.
And he had the gym. Remember, he had the gym equipment in the garage. And so I would go out and I put on like 3 weights, and it was like perfect. But it was sturdy on the ends because it distributed the weight, but it was not sturdy in the middle, because I was looking at, hey, we're putting weights on this thing.
Uh-oh. Mr.
Ingram just comes in and just steps on it. He's like, well, that one didn't work. And I'm like, what? Like, I thought we were putting weights. And so then he did, like, because he put it in between like two cinder blocks.
Yeah.
So he had 2 cinder blocks, and he put the bridge on it, and then he'd step right in the middle. And I'm like, I thought it was like we were distributing weight. Anyways, so mine was just straight up like broke immediately. And the one that won, of course, was the one that did like 84 rows of toothpicks glued together like this thick. You know what I mean? Like that's not even like a bridge. Anyways. So we randomly went 30 minutes talking about school because we mentioned Mr. Nault on the sunflower seeds.
Oh, shoot. We're still on the polls. We haven't even got to the second poll yet.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mr. Nault again.
Good job, Mr. Nault. And my second poll question was eggnog. It was actually eggnog. Thumbs up or thumbs down. That was it. And
did more people say no?
And I thought they would. We have 32 votes. 62% of the votes thumbs upped it.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
A lot of it is our family. I think because that's a big thing in our family.
And everybody likes it in our family because Mimi, mom always made it with the ice cream and extra delicious.
Even Erin Wilson Burger, she thumbs upped it.
Well, good for her, because usually if she knows I like something, she says no just to get on my nerves.
And Jennifer Hoffman.
Oh, good on her.
And Mr. Nault.
Oh, who said
stop
no?
there. Stop there. No's. Here's some no's. We got the Norton side of the family. We got Val, my wife, said no. My brother-in-law, Jeremiah, no. Our buddy Colin, still supposed to be on the show. Let's see. Anybody else you would know? Nobody else you would know. Just random friends of mine. But I'll tell you what. I love me some eggnog. And by the way, shout out to my neighbor, Alan. Alan's an avid listener to our show. He lives right across the street from me in the cul-de-sac across the street. And he brought me, he said, I know I've been listening to your show, but he brought us a present. So they bring us a present. That's what you do. Like when you're in suburbia,
you live in a good neighborhood, right?
All our neighbors get gifts from us, and we give gifts to all our neighbors. and he brought us a gift. He used to bring us wine. He used to give wine to everybody.
Tell you what, that's the best neighbor ever right there. I'd open the door for Alan if he came to my place with some wine.
So he gave us wine, and I never would be like, we don't drink wine. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna do that. So we would sometimes we'd regift it to other people. Sometimes we just give it to another neighbor, and we're just like, hey, like.
I think Val cooks with it though sometimes, right?
Yeah. Then she started like keeping it to cook with, but for the most part, but he knows now that we don't drink alcohol. So I don't know if he still gives wine to others. I have no idea, but they kind of bring us a little different gift than they used to. And it's cookies and candies and treats. And it's unbelievable. So he said, hey, I've been listening to your show, but I gave you a present anyways. And so he gave me a Dr. Pepper. So I am saving the Dr. Pepper. Actually, Jared wanted to drink it. So they brought us on Sunday, and Jared's like, hey.
He tried to take it and was like, I'm going to have this. I'm like, that is for your dad. You better ask.
He's like, you can't have it. I'm like, this is my Christmas present. I'm going to have it on Christmas. So I will drink the Dr. Pepper on Christmas with some eggnog. I'm definitely buying some eggnog, and my stomach will be hurting, but I'll be okay. Niners play on Sunday. I mean, on Christmas,
I'll make it. I'll make it on Sunday. I'll do it with
on like Christmas
all the.
Day?
No, not Sunday. I'll make it on Christmas Day with all of the.
Well, here's the thing.
Ice cream. It'll be just you and me.
The Niners play on Christmas Day as well. Just FYI.
Nice. They got Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's about freaking time.
I was going to try to look at seeing how much it would cost, but could we go to San Francisco or Santa Clara and go to the game?
Tickets are like $200 or $300 probably for nosebleeds.
Yeah, but it's going to be cold there. And
San Francisco's cold. I mean, it's Northern California, so you're going to it's California, but it still gets cold. So I get it. It's cold there when I go in the summer to go watch the freaking Giants play.
Yeah, so we'll watch it from the house. I like watching it from the house. Okay, so what are we eating? So we're going to skip that because honestly, I don't have anything new that I've found that we can eat. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Any of you guys that are gluten-free, grain-free, dairy-free, or sugar-free.
Not you have to be all of the above.
and you're eating paleo, send us something and we'll try it out.
Or send us a suggestion and we'll you don't have to send the product.
Send us a suggestion. Right. I wonder if Marmite would fit under all that.
No, because it's yeast from a beer. I'm going to say no.
Okay. So
just because we can't have alcohol. Plus, I don't want to eat that again. Jesus.
Yeah. Second thing is fun fact of the day. I'm looking over at our list and I don't see anything up there.
Fun fact of the day. Holly forgot to do the fun fact of the day. So that is the fun fact of the day. I'm sure I have one because Heidi will send me. Heidi's actually pretty good about sending me if she finds something cool, like a fun fact online. She does send me one. Matter of fact, there is a really cool one, but it's a little long. I
got one here.
Let's hear it.
Shout out to Taylor, our social media guru.
Yeah.
She posted something yesterday for us, actually.
Okay.
And it's 49ers fun facts.
Boom. Let's do it.
I just thought about that. Pritches Get Stitches edition. So there's 3 little pictures. I know you haven't seen it, Holly, but here's the three pictures. Niner Empire. So I don't know that Taylor's a 49ers fan.
She is now for us anyway.
That's right.
She pretends. It would be the worst if she was a Cowgirls fan. Yeah, that might be.
She probably is.
She's posting all this stuff about the team that she hates.
Taylor, I need to know. Are you a Cowboys fan?
I'm not sorry if you are, because my goal now is to convert you.
So it says here, Niner Empire says the Niner Empire was officially established in 2005 and has become a worldwide empire. I'll have to look all this up. If you make the decision to follow the greatest team of all time, you can call yourself a member of the Niner Empire. I think they're called Faithful by the Bay.
Yeah, Faithful by the Bay, or they call them the Faithful, and Niner Nation, I think, is the other thing that they call themselves too.
So we'll do some Niner Empire looking that up. And then the rivalry of the century. The intense rivalry between the 49ers and the Cowboys during the 1980s and 1990s produced some of the most memorable moments in NFL history. The first official rivalry game was on November 20th, 1960. This day, the 49ers beat the Cowboys 26-14. Apparently, that's when the rivalry began. I mean, obviously, the rivalry really began in the 80s. Not even the 80s.
Right.
The 90s.
90s?
Really? Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, though, it was the worst growing up a Niners fan in Cowgirls territory, because if the Cowgirls won, and you never heard the end of it.
It was funny because on Sunday, we were rooting for an Eagles loss. We weren't rooting for a Cowboys win. We were rooting for an Eagles loss. And Jared was just like, okay, the Eagles are losing. That's great, but they can't get blown out. And so they just got blown out by the Cowboys. And he's like, all that needs to happen is the Eagles need to score more points against the Cowboys than they scored against the 49ers, because all my friends are going to be like, oh, they only put up 13 against us. And, they put up 19 against you guys. And I said, it doesn't matter. We just need to put up more. So have a bigger differential. So I think we did. Maybe. So that
what was the final score for Cowboys?
Yeah, theirs was 33-13.
Oh yeah,
ours was 42-19.
42-19.
I think we won.
I think so.
Anyways, so there's our fun fact of the day. You can find that on our social media pages at Pritch and Moan. And if you find something that you would like us to try, leave a comment on YouTube at Pritch and Moan, or shoot us an email, pritchesgetstitches@gmail.com.
So I wanted to bring up one thing from last episode. We talked about when you were talking about like burning calories. Mm-hmm. So I feel bad because few episodes ago, I can't remember, we talked about, I mentioned by name our faithful listeners who we both know. And I forgot Kuzak. And Kuzak texted me. I forgot to say Kuzak. I didn't forget about Kuzak. I was just trying, in the moment, throwing off people we knew. And she texted me the next day and was like, bitch, I listen to your podcast faithfully every week. I was like, I know. And she even sends me like stuff about it, like, hey, this happened, or hey, here's a follow-up. So she's always very involved. And it was just kind of like in the moment, I forgot to mention her. So she listened to...
What a loser.
I know. Not you, Kuzak, me.
Yeah, Ollie.
Anyway, we had talked about calories, and I said, I thought that you would burn more calories on an incline. And you were like, yeah, but, blah, blah, blah. We had that whole back and forth. So this morning I got a text from her that said, listening to the podcast, you do burn more calories on the incline over time, scientifically, because you are gaining muscle mass. Muscle mass burns calories. So same heart rate flat versus incline wins. I double checked with my trainer friend at school this morning.
Because I was thinking you're exerting energy, right?
Right.
And I can understand like, hey, if I'm on an incline, obviously I'm building more muscle, but it would take me less effort on an incline to get to 139, in the sense that let me take that back. It's more effort because I'm on an incline. I was going to say, right. You're on an incline, but speed, it would take me less speed. So I would be walking uphill. So my thought on this is I'm going at a slower speed, but a higher incline. I'm still at 139 heart rate. Sorry, couldn't think of the word. So my heart rate is still 139. So whether I'm at 139 uphill, or I'm 139 flat going faster, you're still like exerting the same amount of energy. That's why you're burning the same calories. However, I did not take into consideration that you are building, muscle, right? As opposed to, as opposed to running, where you're not necessarily probably building muscle on a flat. But I can do the flat, which makes it easy. Like I did incline yesterday. Actually, I did incline for a little bit because I got on and my shins were kind of hurting, like little shin splint style, So I'm like, well, let me just walk. Well, I'm not just, so I have to increase my speed a little, my heart rate. So in order to do that, I put it on an incline, and I was there for a little while, and then I went back to flat and ran. But my goal is 1,000 calories on the treadmill. But
you have to also remember with the incline, you can't just go like, hey, I'm going to put it at a 5 and expect to do it. You have to, I literally started, when I started instead of being 0.0, it was 0.5. So, and then you don't realize though, how big of a difference just 0.5 incline makes until you're actually doing it. But I think we talked that out last podcast. I just wanted to bring up that Kuzak follows up, and she always sends me like little follow-up facts or things that, like she was the one when we talked about the old guy running. Mm-hmm. She sent me the information about him.
Which we never did follow up on that guy. That was like our impromptu last episode of the thing. And the last we know, he's still alive. So going back to about 7 episodes ago.
Yep. He is still alive. Both Heidi and Kuzak followed up.
All right.
So, and they said that Kuzak's friends with his I think, friends with his daughter on Facebook, and she said she still posts stuff about it. But yeah,
Oh, good. So Holly, you texted me yesterday, and since our last episode, it's official.
it is official. I got the place in Hawaii.
What can I call you? I got it. Where in the world is Holly Honolulu?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one.
Change your name to Honolulu.
You know what? I was just about to say I am changing my name next year, and I was going to go back to Pritchard, but maybe I'll change it to Honolulu.
Holly Honolulu. I mean, that's an unbelievable name. I get the rights. So when you become famous, people want to pay you for your name. You owe me 10%. I'll take the Joey deal.
Deal.
Holly Honolulu.
So it's official, and I will be less than 1 minute from Lanikai Beach, and the best part of Lanikai Beach, apparently, because the landlord and her son called me. They were trying to set up like a Zoom call or FaceTime, and I was like, I don't have an iPhone, and he's like, my mom doesn't have a camera on her phone or whatever to do Zoom. So he was like, anyway, we couldn't do a face-to-face, quote unquote virtual, but we just wanted to talk with you and kind of get a feel for you. And so we chatted, and they were super, super friendly. And they're like, you're just going to love it here. It's a different life altogether. And he's like, yeah, Hawaii is a different life, but where we live in Kailua, he was like, that's even different than the rest of all Hawaii. And Nikki, your sister-in-law, said the same thing. Like Kailua is like a completely different place than everywhere else on the island.
Well, is it more of like I know nothing about Hawaii. So is it more like on Oahu, you're going to have like North Shore there? Like, is that where all the like tourists go and things like that?
So we're on the opposite side.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're on the opposite side. We're about 20 minutes northeast of Honolulu, according to what the landlord said, like a 20-minute drive. But he's like, it's rare that anybody from Kailua even goes into Honolulu.
Right.
He's like, it's just so much different. But it was funny because, my landlord, she's 85 and she wants me to give her checks. And I'm like, I don't even have a checkbook.
Oh, that's a poll question. When was the last time you had a check? Like you had a checkbook? And I'm going to put
a checkbook.
And I'm going to put like I had to convince Heidi, like, you don't need to balance your checkbook anymore. Like it balances online for you. Like you just log in. And I honestly didn't have like my last check I wrote when I was in McKinney because, for church, I pay tithing. And for the longest time, you could only pay with cash or check. And they changed it to where now you can pay with the bank account. And I would write a check. It's the only reason I had checks because it's like either I go get cash or I write a check. And I wrote that last check and I never got checks again. Like we used to get the mailers in the mail. Remember that? You get the mailers and you're like, which check do you want? And I think I bought some off of that thing where I got checks sent to me but it had my Colleen address from, when I lived on
Metropolitan, probably.
No, it was the newer address, but
was it?
It's been, and I've been here for 6 years in Prosper. And before that we were in McKinney. I mean, the last time I bought checks was probably 15 years ago.
I was going to say, I don't think I've had checks for like 20 years, literally. I'm not even making that up. Like as soon as they went to, you could pay stuff online. And so I'm like, well, can we do like Zelle? Because if you do Zelle and your bank has Zelle, it's bank account to bank account. It's like faster than a check. And she's like, well, what's Zelle? And then her son is like, Mom, don't worry about it. Like you're not going to be. So I thought maybe that will be my contribution because she has an extra parking spot in the garage. That if she trusts you, she'll allow you to park in there because he was like, listen, it's first, because I did bring that up. Like, hey, I'm eventually going to bring my car. So I'm wondering, I said, it's a nicer car. It's a Challenger and I don't want that parked on the street. And so I was wondering about like parking. And so he's like, and she was like, yeah, that's definitely, down the road. That's something we could talk about. And he was like, listen, the thing is like, that is a direct entrance into my mom's home. And so I was like, hey, I 100%, I would never, if you guys didn't feel safe and secure with me, I 100% understand. Like, no, I'm not going to push it. But
at what point do you say I'm a top secret?
I told them
classified.
I did.
Everything in my life depends on me not being a dummy.
I did end up saying that. I said, listen, because he said, I wondered about that because of the job you told me that you did. I said, yeah, listen, I have like a top secret clearance and I have to go through a review every so many years. And my job is actually dependent on that clearance. So you're not going to find anything. I don't have any records. I'm an honest person. So anyway, we, he was like, you have to get in good. And so he was like telling me that her last tenant got in good because he was an internet guy. So whenever the internet would break, he could fix it. So that was kind of his in. So I think my in will be helping her modernize, because I'm like, I'm going to have to go to a bank, or I'm going to have to set it up on my bank to send a check to her. And then it doesn't, I don't know. It's just like, and so it was funny because she says, well, would it help if I gave you my ACH number? And that just made me laugh, because I'm like, who even says ACH number? But I told her, I said, well, let me look at my bank and see.
What is an ACH number?
It's like it's like your bank account basically, but you used to call it an ACH number back in the day when you had to have this number to go to send from bank to bank. It was
this woman's 85 and lives in Hawaii.
She lives in Hawaii.
So,
she's old school, but she still has a job. She goes to work every day. She is an accountant at a law firm. She goes every day. And I thought he said she doesn't drive, but she does drive.
Do they need process servers?
I don't know, but I thought that'll be my in right there, because I'm going to ask her, once I get my car, I'm going to say, hey, I've got this and this, that, or my little mobility scooter that goes 15 miles an hour. I'll go all over the island on that. But anyway, I just thought that'll be my thing, because he was like, because I even said like, well, what about a money order? She's like, I just prefer a check. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't own a check. I was like, all right, that's fine. I'll just figure something out. I said something about like, I don't know how that works from like the bank. So what I'll do is, I know that you can set it up that they will send a check in the mail. And if I say I need it there by the 1st, they send it so many days in advance. I said, but I'm just concerned that if I do that and it's not, there by the 2nd or the 3rd, I get, or whatever it is, and they said, and it was funny because her son is like, that's okay. We operate here on Hawaiian time. So if you tell us it's in the mail, we know that's going to be a minute. So I was like, all right. Okay.
Yeah, the mail sucks anymore. It sucks.
Right. So it's just funny because she's like wanting a check. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to have to really I'm going to have to ingratiate myself with this lady, get in good. But it's nice because it's a 6-month lease to start. So it goes until June 31st. That's what they put on the lease, because her son did it. I was like, hey, so I'm just looking over the lease because we're on the phone. I was like, there's actually only 30 days. He's like, yeah, my mom caught it. He was like, the last one ended on
July 31st.
December 31st. So he's like, so all I did was change the date. So I signed the lease and sent it back, but it's good because it's a 6-month lease. And that way, like, hey, if island life really isn't for me, I'm there until June and then I can move back. But then the thing that it says in the lease is, if after the date of June 30th, the tenant and landlord agree that the tenant will stay, this lease will roll over into a lease that operates as a month-to-month basis, and you have to give a 30-day notice to go out. And that's what I didn't want. Anywhere I went, I was afraid of being trapped. Like, I'm feeling trapped and I'm stuck here. So now, knowing that it's a month-to-month and I literally can pick up and say, hey, in 30 days, I'm done, I feel a lot better about the move.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, I'm super excited. Like, Skaren and I were talking like a couple of weeks ago about when she always goes up to Ocean City, Maryland a couple times a year. And she was there she left my house, went home, was home for 3 days, and then left for Ocean City, Maryland. And she texted me pictures like every day of like sitting on the house that they rent is right on the beach. And she was like, I need this to be my life every day. And this morning I texted her and I was like, girl, can you believe that's going to be my life every day? And she's like, no, I can't believe it. That's so good. Yeah, I'm super excited.
I mean, you already got, Ava is, my preteen, and has planned a trip. She has already planned a trip. She's the most entrepreneurial of my kids, hardest working. Sorry, Lexi, if you're listening. Sorry, Jared, if you're listening. Ava outworks you to make money. JC doesn't care. He's 9.
Right.
But she outworks those kids to make money. And which, by the way, she just picked up a new dog poop customer. So that's
nice.
That's gonna be another
20
40,
bucks.
I think 40 bucks a month. $40 a month.
She told me, she texted and said she's lining up jobs. She's got new jobs lined up and she's looking for ways.
So she has this planned, has tried to convince her best friend's parents. They have created a slideshow on Google Slides. I don't know if she told you this. They created a slideshow that her best friend could show her parents and say why they should get on an airplane and fly across the world to Hawaii. And the friend's dad is like, I understand, like, it sounds fun, but it's not normal that a parent will allow a 12-year-old to get onto a flight to fly halfway around the world for someone we don't really know. Like, not that we don't trust, not that she doesn't trust us or trust you. She's just like, I don't know.
She's only met me twice. Her parents, I've only met them, aside from, like, yes, they've seen me at the volleyball games, but it's not like we've I've literally interacted with them.
And they're
Twice.
religious. They're religious and they're,
Right.
you know, they go to church with us. And so it's like, all I know about her sister is she's excommunicated and she likes to drink alcohol and that kind of stuff. So it's like, I understand. And we're trying to explain that to Ava. Like, you got to understand, like, they got to do
Right.
what's best for their
And
kid.
I did tell that to Ava because she was like, Zoe's parents aren't going to let her come and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, you know what? Their job is to love and protect their child. So you should be happy that they're having reservations. But I did tell her that, you know, because she's like, well, even if she can't come, can I still come? Because I was like, yeah, you can come stay with me. I don't care. So she's like, well, I want to come for, you know, a month and blah, blah. I was like, listen, if you're allowed to go, we need to plan it. That I said, I will be in Dallas, back here in Dallas in June, because I'm coming back for the Giants Rangers series that's playing in Ranger Stadium. I said, and then I have to get, you know, also I'll have to ship my car and all of that. But I said, so if you come, then we need to plan it to where you, and if your buddy can come, y'all can fly back with me. So you don't have to pay the
Right.
unaccompanied minor both ways. Like you'd only have to pay it one way. But she's texting me all sorts of random. Do they have a Starbucks on the island? Do they have this? I'm like, girl, it's just like here. It's not like you're going. It's like, I think in her mind, we're going to some random remote third world country that's, you know, but it's just funny because she's been planning the heck out of this with me via text message.
So she's on me like, Dad, can I go? Because I just need to line stuff up so I have enough money and I have thing, da, 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 da. And I told her, I said, girl, you ain't going at 12 years old. You ain't going to Hawaii before I go to Hawaii. So
here's what I did tell her. So you may get this out of her, because when we were talking about it, I said, you know, I don't know if you're going to go, but I can tell you that some ways to help improve your chances of your parents saying yes are you need to be on your best behavior between now and then. No arguing with your parents. You are extra helpful, volunteering to do things around the house for mom and dad. You are helping your siblings. You are not like, so hopefully at least you'll see some. So just keep telling her you're still thinking about it. And then you'll get like her best behavior, even though she's very well behaved. And
yeah, well, what we told her is like the best time to buy tickets is 90 days before.
Right.
So you can plan it out, you know, all these things, but we got to figure out when we're going to go, or not when we're going to go, when you're going to go. And 90 days before that, you buy the ticket. So she's like, okay, well, what's 90 days from today? And let's just see how much the tickets are. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So she's coming at some point.
She's a planner. She is a planner.
Is having this thing.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, listen, you can come, but don't expect that I'm taking you shopping and we're doing all that. I said, my whole goal while I'm there is to be on the beach. So I will be the one, you know, I'll take you surfing. I will take you sailing. We will do all sorts of sports like that. We'll be at the beach, but I'm not going to be all up in the store shop. She's like, that's all right. I'll have Aunt Nikki take me shopping. I'm like, all right, you and Aunt Nikki go shopping. But Nikki's like, I'll be on the beach with you, girl. So we'll see.
Is something else. She is funny. So, well, we're going to discuss next. We may have another show before, because you're leaving like end of the month, right?
I'm actually going January 1st.
Oh.
I have an ablation the last week of December, so I had to push it out a week, but I've been trying to like sell everything. And, you know, when you're making a big move like this, you should probably not make that decision 1 month before, because I mean, I literally thought about it and then made this decision when I saw that place come open all within like 2 days. And now I'm trying to sell everything and it's crazy.
Yep. So you're selling everything. We're going to discuss the next time we talk. We'll have a post. I'm selling everything discussion regarding how that went on Facebook Marketplace, because you're not a Facebook Marketplacer. And so you are like, Scott, this guy says he's going to send me a check, and then I cash the check and send him the extra money. I'm like, no, don't do it. Like scam. Like that's a scam.
Oh, I've been hit up with some scams a few times and had to ask you the question. So luckily though, I knew that if you send me a check with extra and give you the back, that's a scam. But
so we're going to discuss all that. Like we'll discuss your post move, because we may not, you know, you've got some things coming up and we've got Christmas and break and all that stuff. So we may not get on here before you're in Hawaii. But in the meantime, I did want to share two things as we close. Okay. First thing is we've been sending out Christmas cards. Okay. And Val has a list and she's very strict on her list. All our family gets a Christmas card. So if you're in our family, like direct sibling or parent, you're going to get a Christmas card, whether you send us one or not. Just because we're like, hey, you know, I mean, I know there's Facebook, but people put them up on their fridge and things like that. However, if you're a friend and you haven't sent us a Christmas card, you're off the list
Like
until
if you
send
didn't
us
send one last year, you don't get one, and you don't get one again until you send us one.
Correct. Because if
Okay.
we're the last one to send it, you're off the list.
Okay.
So she's debating. I've had this friend forever, and I'm back and forth whether she was going to send this card, and she didn't know. And we talked about it for about 3 or 4 days. And this friend actually lives, they grew up in San Diego together, but she now lives here in the Dallas area. And she's back and forth, and finally makes the decision. I'm taking her off the list because I did not get a card last year, but she's been my friend forever. But I'm not going to send her one. And no joke, the day we make the decision, now it's been 3 or 4 days, we're trying to make this decision. And the day she finally says, I'm not doing it, I go out to the mail and I get all the cards and all this, all the mail. And lo and behold, there's a card, a Christmas card from that friend. And just manifested it out there. Like for 3 days, we were mulling over this. She probably put it in the mail as soon as Val started thinking about it. If you think, go back.
Right.
3 days and it shows up. Anyway, so the other one is Heidi. Heidi's been texting me. Like I've told you, I've been talking about this a lot lately, is manifesting, putting things out in the universe and they come back. Heidi just texted me. She said, I just asked Eleanor, who's the other girl that works in the office with us in Colleen. I just asked Eleanor to tell Dad on GroupMe to come by the office about 10 minutes ago. So I asked her to put it on there. She didn't put it on there. And Dad just drove up. She's like,
and he doesn't come. We need to point out that Dad doesn't go to the office anymore.
He only goes to the office when they tell him to come into the office. So she said, I put it out there and he showed up, and then she said, manifested, ha ha ha. And then Dad posts, it's my manifest destiny. Oh, Dad.
I have one though, a quick one.
Okay.
So I have a buddy. I call him Milwaukee because that's where he lives.
All right.
And so we've been talking about my move to Hawaii, and he didn't believe I was actually going to do it. And I did it. He was like, okay, cool. We've been talking back and forth. Like, are you going to ship your car? What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. So I had told him like, hey, I'm not going to ship it right away. I'm going to wait those 6 months to see if I want to stay. And if I decide, then I'll ship it. Well, I sent you this text. I said, last night, Milwaukee asked me if they have Zip Trip cars in Hawaii. And I was like, I don't even know, what a Zip Trip car is. And he's like, it's a shared, you pay a fee to share a car, basically. A monthly fee, and you share the car with other people. So he was like, it's very popular in places like LA, Miami, New York City, Dallas, Houston. So he's like, I've seen them all there. I've used them in there. He's like, but I've never actually seen that here in Milwaukee. He sends me a text the next day and says, interesting. I just saw a Zip Trip car here in Hawaii.
Or Milwaukee.
So there you go.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, or in Milwaukee. So he texted that the night before to ask me about it. I told him I didn't know. He says, I've never seen one in Milwaukee. And the next day he has one in Milwaukee.
It's crazy. I'd love to hear more stories about this because I'm interested in it. I've been a big believer in that. I mean, since I started kind of as an entrepreneur and in business, we've discussed The Secret. We've discussed, manifesting and putting things out, Think and Grow Rich, all that stuff. And I'd be interested to kind of hear some of these stories and share them because, it's out there. Something I believe in. It's something that I think is real. That what I put out, it goes like thoughts or things. They go out. They're received by somebody subconsciously. That is, and usually it's the person that, like in this case, with the card. Like maybe she thought, maybe she was thinking, do I send them a card? I mean, they always send me one. Maybe I'll put it back on the list. So, anyways, I'd love to hear some of those stories. Email them to us, or put them in the comments, or whatever. If you want it to be a little, not as on a comment on YouTube, we filter all our comments, so you're welcome to put it in and say, hey, I don't want this on the page, but you can share it. We filter that. And around that, Holly, I just want to make an announcement as we close. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and then even before we started the podcast, I've been talking about it. And one thing that I love, and one thing that's important to me is entrepreneurship, and even the stories. What I love is the stories of the entrepreneur, right? And not even necessarily like the success story. Like now, I don't necessarily want to know where you're at now. It's important to know, hey, I make a ton of money or whatever. My business is successful. But I'd love to hear the story of the beginning. I love to hear the struggle and the things that people went through and like the beginning. Like I was there for a lot of the beginning of a lot of my friends' stories, and I saw, we celebrated when we hit a milestone that really, when you look at it today, you're like, it's a good thing you're not still at that level because you'd be broke, right?
Right.
But at the time, it was a milestone. So I have been mulling it over and thinking about it a lot. And in building my own brand and in building my own, um, with process serving and kind of trying to increase my own business and those things I've created a brand. I've worked on creating a brand anyways, and in more details to come, but I am going to start another podcast with where I interview and I speak with, and we've kind of discussed it a little bit on our show. And let's be honest, like it seems to me entrepreneurship and business and like it's interesting to you, but I don't know that it's like your favorite thing in the world.
It's interesting. I would love to do it. It's probably not as interesting to me because, like I always say, I'm not willing to be poor again. Right. And I also don't want to work that hard. And you may not work super hard now, but when you were getting your business, when you were building it, you were working all the time. And I'm like, man, I have great ideas. I don't want to execute. I don't want to follow through. So yeah, it's interesting, but not, if that makes sense.
So my whole goal and my premise is to interview people who are in business, who are entrepreneurs, and discuss their story. You know what I mean? Like to give other entrepreneurs who are just starting out, like some hope. Hey, there is hope. Like, I don't want to discuss, the big deal where, you made, they made all their money because they sold the thing. I want to talk about what it took for them to get there to sell it. You know what I mean?
Right.
To give an idea and to give, young entrepreneurs a chance to, find some hope and, because it is tough, like building a business. I always say, like, if you haven't cried on your pillow wondering how you're going to pay your mortgage, like you're not going to last very long, if that makes sense. Right. Because that's the hardship you go through. That's what solidifies some of that stuff. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to, my goal is by the end of the year to have maybe my first episode out of that and to, be able to, inspire hope, because I love it. I love inspiring people. I love doing that. Like, that's the one thing I loved when I was in the financial business was the training and the inspiration and pushing people to be better. So that'll just kind of be a little caveat to what we're already doing here. And we've talked about that and put it under the, maybe under that same brand, the Pritch's Get Stitches brand, but also, under it also as a way for me to increase my influence and be able to increase my own brand with the process serving stuff, because I feel there's 100 ways you can build and increase your business, but I just want to, I feel like this is a good way to do that. So anyways.
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking about how you're like, I just want to increase my business and this. And I'm like, I just want to lay on the beach.
I know.
I just want to lay on the beach. Like, that's the only thing going through my mind. You're like, I want to do this and do this. And I'm like, I just want to lay on the beach. So I have to laugh because very different. You're very motivated to do that. Your kids are motivated to do that. And I'm over here thinking, I just want to lay on the beach. So,
let's be real though. You got a pretty easy job.
I do. I don't know that it's easy. Let's Simple. Discuss this. I don't know that it's easy. I have worked very hard to get where I'm at in this job.
Correct.
And
like, we're like in the same spot. We're both at like top of the food chain, and we're able to live the life we want to live.
Right.
But the life you want to live is very different than the life I want to live.
Correct. That's it. And I think it's funny when people I don't know, I have to remind people that, hey, I worked really hard to get to this spot. Like, I worked 3 jobs. I was always one who had 2 and 3 jobs, paying for my own school, going for my MBA. Like, this wasn't just handed to me. And I think that's one thing I have to sometimes remind some people because.
And you have to remind yourself too. Like,
yeah, I did have to remind myself that hey,
you're going to go back to college and do things, but that's not like, now is the time to just relax. And I think, you've talked about it like through therapy and things, like realizing
it's okay just to enjoy life.
I'm okay. It's okay to just sit and do nothing because I'm just enjoying. That's what I want to do. And what you want to do is that, of course, I like that too, but I'm still at the, with the kids, I'm still at having to make as much money as I can to support and give them a life. And I think
what you enjoy is you don't even like the beach. So what you enjoy is completely different than what I enjoy. So, if I could find something though, that could make me money where I didn't have to put a lot of work and effort into it, then I would do it. You
have to buy a ready-made business.
Exactly.
And have somebody else run it. It's already making money with the manager. The owner just makes all the money they need to make it, but that's hard to come by.
And I'm trying to think of something I can do. So that could be something for everybody to help me think of something. If you can think of something I can do in Hawaii like a service or a business that's not going to take a lot of time, but something I can do on the side over there. Because listen, I'm going to have a lot of extra time over there because my hours will be the same. I'll be working the same hours as my Utah team, which means I'll be working from like 3 a.m. to 1 p.m. or 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. depending. So I'll have a lot of time during the day to do extra stuff.
You could dress up as like a street performer and then have people pay you.
I feel like that's probably not appropriate for Kailua, where I'm going to live. Maybe I could go to like Honolulu.
Go to Honolulu, go to North Shore.
Right.
Be like
then I have to get a freaking car.
Put a mermaid tail on and.
Oh, ain't nobody want to see that. Let me tell you. But so if you can think of something I could do over there, just something unique or something that you think might make money, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do like a business or something if I felt there was.
Come up with some ideas and then throw them to you. All right, Holly. Well, let's wrap it up. So look for that. Look for the new podcast. It's going to be license plates. People put a little thing on their license plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So mine's the brand I'm building and what I'm working on, and hopefully I'll have a hat soon that has it. I'm going to build those myself. Yeah. It's basically a license plate. You got served, UGT, SRVD. And that's something I actually toyed with when I first got into business, probably 2009, 2010. I created the license plate and I just never did anything with it since, but I'm looking at it as a way to expand and grow. And so it's targeted at, other process servers, but then there's other ways and other things too. So just really looking at entrepreneurs in general. The podcast.
Yeah. What are you going to call it?
You Got Served. It's going to be just like that.
Oh, okay.
You Got Served. And then it'll be like something. How process serving enhanced my life and the stories of others like mine or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
But
I don't know, man, that's real neat. That's real it's a real specific, what's the word I'm looking for? Niche market. Is it
so it's not going to be either way. I don't know.
But I
don't
feel
know
like
anymore.
I've heard it both ways, so I never know. But I'm curious though, if you put process serving.
I mean, it's just something like that. Like it's going to be about entrepreneurship and like how this part of like this entrepreneurship like changed my life because I was an entrepreneur, but then other stories like people like that.
Got it.
And I can share my story as we talk with other people and things like that. But it's just, success podcast. That's my deal. That's my jam.
That'll be fun. You could bring Greg on it with you. Greg, be where your feet are. Brown. Greg Brown?
Absolutely. Greg
and then
Brown.
Maybe he might enjoy that a little bit more than me getting angry and yelling. I still feel like.
Yeah, we all redo.
You and Greg can do it and be on the same page.
That's it. Well, Holly, good to have you. We may or may not see you before the new year. That our next episode, it may be Holly in
Hawaii, Honolulu.
Holly, Honolulu. That's it. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to be like, Britches Get Stitches with Scott and Holly Honolulu. That's your new name. I love it.
With Holly Honolulu and Scott. I'm first. I thought of this.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time. Everybody, happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Hey, what's up, my channel? Please hit the drop a like and hit the subscribe button. Looking for my first subscriber. Can't subscribe myself. Can't do that for some reason. I don't know why. Wish you could.